So finally, welcome to episode 1 of In My Opinion, where I intend on sharing my thoughts across a wide cross-section of topics. But for my first set of official episodes, I want to share a few things that have guided or inspired me for many years. I remember a time when in every house you would see a plaque on the wall or a picture that says the words Serenity, Courage, Wisdom, otherwise known as the Prayer of Serenity. When I initially read it as a younger, inexperienced child, it simply sounded good. But I never understood the true depth and magnitude that they meant. But as I moved through life's journey, it became more and more evident that these 3 words would perhaps be wrapped up in every decision, every relationship, your job, your family, just about all the complexities that life has to offer. In arguably everything that we did, we always needed to rely on either serenity, courage, or wisdom, or all at the same time. The prayer actually says, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Serenity to accept the things I cannot change. This emphasizes acceptance, a fundamental aspect of emotional resilience. Life is so unpredictable. We often find ourselves in situations we wish were different, be it at a job, a health issue, a strained relationship, you name it. Think back to a moment in your life when you faced something you couldn't change. For me, it was when I understood that some men just want to watch the world burn. Okay, I borrowed that line from Batman, The Dark Knight. No matter how I wished for a different outcome, the reality was that I couldn't change or influence their hearts or souls. And sometimes, it's just good to peacefully walk away. In these moments, I learned the power of acceptance. Acceptance doesn't mean we don't feel pain or sorrow. Rather, it's about finding peace amidst the storm. But it is this acceptance that leads to serenity. When we accept the unchangeable, we free ourselves from unnecessary suffering. We stop battling against reality and instead start focusing on how to respond. When we finally realize that the change we seek is perhaps not in others, but it is to change ourselves and our perspectives. Acceptance is often the first step towards healing. It allows us to channel our energy into what truly matters. If you keep hitting your head against a brick wall and bust your head, is it the wall's fault? But here's the struggle. At what point do you recognize that you simply can't have a positive impact? Is it really acceptance? Or is it just simply giving up? And this is where the ego comes in now. I think I'm a very strong and mentally tough, and I'm supposed to be able to solve any problem. I just can't accept that there's a situation I can't solve. We do this in our relationships, where we think the solutions lie in trying to change the other person. I fully believe that the downfall of mankind is our egos. Maybe it's just our nature as mankind to conquer the world, to keep exploring, to go beyond where no man has gone before. Even though some of our efforts are well intentioned, a lot of times it really ends up making things worse. Have you ever reflected on some of the decisions you've made and eventually felt at peace with them? It is as if the weight of the world was lifted off your shoulder, and those blinders that surrounded you fall away, allowing you to see what is truly out there. Okay, I still struggle every day with acceptance. And I know it's perhaps my overinflated ego. But on the other side of acceptance is oftentimes wonderful serenity. So now we get to courage. Courage to change the things I can. Courage is the driving force behind personal growth and transformation. While acceptance brings us peace, courage inspires action. But a lot of time, what limits us is the fear or lack of self-confidence. But courage is not the absence of fear. I believe it's the ability to act in spite of fear. I've been trying to launch this podcast, this YouTube channel, for about 4 years. And each time I find myself doubting myself, wondering, why the hell am I doing this? Why would anyone want to listen to me? Even now, I feel very insecure while I'm talking in this very moment. And I'm struggling. But you know what? Why the hell not? I can only grow from being vulnerable and face the criticism. I know that nobody likes criticism. I certainly do not. But I really do believe in the importance of feedback. To become a better leader, a better person, a better father, a better friend, you really need constructive feedback. And I know people can be vicious with their opinions, believing that their views are facts. Ask anyone, including yourself, what are the positive things that you see about yourself versus what are the negative things. You're going to get 1,000 negatives very quickly. It's so very easy to criticize. And I've always heard that people are afraid of public speaking. It's one of people's greatest fears. But we speak in public all the time, you know. We speak to one person, 3, 5, 20 when we're in our comfort zone. But once it's to strangers, the fear gets amplified. Simply asking a question in class is met with trepidation. I don't know when this fear started, but many people live lives of quiet misery. I love to speak to much older folk, and the saddest thing they speak of is the regrets they have for not taking action on things earlier in their lives. One of the hardest things to live with is regret. As a dad, one opportunity I want to give my daughter is the chance to take risks, explore the world, fail, learn from those failures. It is through these experiences that we find joy. You know, the mindset of entrepreneurs differs significantly from those of us who prefer stable employment. When you ask entrepreneurs, how can they take such risks knowing they might lose everything? They often respond casually, we'll just start over. Oh, okay. I mean, I know this is much easier said than done. For those of us who grew up in lower socioeconomic conditions, the risk of taking chances feels very daunting. And if we don't secure a job right after school, how do we pay off our students' loans? The jobs we take may not be the ones that we want, but we do it because we must, because of our economic situations. Exercising courage becomes even harder when the risk involves hunger, the roof over your head, but especially when you have kids. Courage really feels like a very distant luxury. But we need courage oftentimes to go against our peers. Peer pressure is more often than not to do bad things versus positive things, as we unfortunately live in a society that much more glorifies the negative aspects, and you get ridiculed if you think or act otherwise. Many of us struggle with self-esteem. Right? Growing up, there is very limited positive energy directed towards us. And I don't think it's deliberate. We just don't know how to. And it's not part of our DNA as a people. If you ask a question that seems foolish, you get ridiculed, which only exacerbates our fears. We learn to do as are told, not speak up, and to be afraid. Our kids are very fragile now, and social media, in my opinion, has exponentially destroyed our self-esteem. And it's threatening the very fabric of our society with all these unattainable fake imagery from so-called influencers. These aren't positive influencers. For every one person that feels inspired, I believe there are another 100 that feels fatter, uglier, or inadequate. But when I hear the word courage, first thing that comes to my mind really is that brave warrior we see in the movies who conquers and slays all their enemies. But one very crucial and arguably most important aspect of courage is the ability to ask for help. Now, for me as a man, it's hard to be vulnerable. It takes a lot of courage because I believe it's my duty to be strong all the time, show no weakness. But at the same time, I'm very fearful of rejection. I'll say it here, if a man ever shows weakness in front of his partner that is even slightly ridiculed, that man will never show it again. No man wants to show weakness. We're just not socialized that way, and we prefer to suffer. But without a doubt, courage has the power to really influence the direction of our lives. And we should really embrace it in all aspects. And here's where we come to the third aspect of the prayer. The wisdom to know the difference, which tries to balance both acceptance and courage. Wisdom is the discernment that enables us to distinguish between what we can and what we cannot change. This line challenges us to reflect deeply on our lives. How often do we struggle with things that are beyond our control? And how often do we overlook opportunities for change because of fear or complacency? Wisdom comes from learned experiences, ones that involve reflection and often include the guidance of others. We love to say that we have 10 or 20 years experience in a particular field. But do those experiences by themselves truly make us an expert? The question is really, were we always evolving, embracing change, and especially feedback? Do we realize that the best athletes in the world, 99% of them have coaches? What about the CEOs who feel that they are now the wisest and best in their fields? Shouldn't they embrace the need for coaches as well? A significant benefit of coaches is to highlight your blind spots because our inherent biases blind us to different and perhaps better opinions and make us miss glorious opportunities for growth. The wisdom we seek, though, is about asking ourselves the tough questions. What is truly within my control and what truly matters? For instance, think about your relationships. Are there behaviors that you wish you could change? But often we focus on changing others when we should be evaluating our own responses and our own behaviors. Recognizing what we can influence and what we must let go of is a key to building healthier connections. But wisdom isn't a destination. It's not an exact point where we can say, I am now wise. It's really an ever-evolving spectrum that is just a part of life's journey, which is still very difficult to attain if not done deliberately and intentionally. So now, when we intertwine acceptance, courage, and wisdom, we may be able to truly find a balanced approach to this everyday life. We should start each day with a moment of reflection. Identify something you're struggling to accept, but certainly acknowledge it. Then consciously let it go, especially if you're not in a position to solve it in this moment. Don't let it ruin all the other opportunities for peace throughout the day. So many persons I come across, and when I ask, how are you? The response is usually bad. Not to mention the ones who facetiously say, I'm blessed and highly favored. I always wonder if they truly mean it. But I guess that's better than saying I feel awful. Start building up your courage bucket. Set some small, achievable goals that require courage. Whether it's speaking up in more meetings or confronting a difficult conversation. And then celebrate each step you take towards change. At the end of the day, try to reflect on these experiences. Sometimes best to write them down as we reflect. Ask yourself, what lessons have we learned? What patterns did you see? What made your action successful or unsuccessful, even in success? What could have been done to make it even more successful? Ask as many questions as possible, whether the outcome was positive or negative, to truly gain that experience that will guide the decisions moving forward. But it's also essential to build a support system. Ensure you have some trusted friends or family members, people you can rely on for advice and feedback. But also try to seek this feedback from as many persons as you wish, including the ones you don't like, because they are the ones who will give it to you unfiltered. Okay, this I know my ego struggles with tremendously. But you really want to create an environment of accountability and ultimately growth. I mean, all in all, by embracing acceptance, courage, and wisdom, we equip ourselves to navigate life's complexities with a sense of peace and purpose. We all need to act with courage and seek wisdom in every situation. For in doing so, we believe we can ultimately find serenity amidst the chaos that life can throw at us as we continue on this journey. But again, guys, these are just my opinions, but do hope I've even shared some value, a shred of value that you can take away. Now let's see if anyone even made it to the end of this video. Because next episode I want to share my thoughts on another inspirational poem, Desiderata.